Welcome to the Challenge Chronicles. I am Devin Jordan. I am with Trace Armstrong and Rob McIntyre. We're here to talk about Challenge USA, Episode 3. Don't really have much to say about this one. I don't know. It was good. It was a solid episode.
I thought this was the best of the three.
I thought it was incredible.
Really?
Yeah, I thought it was the best of the three.
Oh,
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I just watched it,
I thought
too.
it was the best of the three.
Really?
Yeah, I did too.
I was going to say, I thought
Yeah.
this was the worst of the three.
wow.
So let's start with that then. What did the two of you like so much about this episode compared to your enjoyment of the first two episodes?
I thought the political gameplay was just more interesting this episode, where we got to see some potential fractures amongst the Survivor and Big Brother group. There's a couple things that were hinted at that might be coming down the line, with Tyson saying how he wants to keep the better players around. We can talk about that later if that's what they should be doing. You had Shan, her trying to play off to Derek that, oh, I don't make big moves. That's just like what happens to him. Like, absolutely not. Like, I'm not buying that for a second. You have Dom basically, I know he wins the elimination at the end, but I thought what he was doing throughout the episode was absolutely mind-boggling to me.
He pulled a Danny is what he did. He is the new
so
Danny.
Bizarre. Let's start with that, because that's where I really want to go to with this. So,
Yes.
first of all, he talks about how his wife's not like he's being paired with all these Love Island women, which, I mean, come on, bro.
As if he's the sexy
Yeah,
stud of the group that is going to entice them to jump
Come
in
on,
his
man.
bed.
And then you have him talking about how, like, oh, Cachet's got, like, her ex, like, focus on the game for whatever. And it's like, it wasn't her, I can't imagine it was her choice to come on the show with her ex-boyfriend there. And I don't
No.
I don't know. I think that's a valid argument, though, that even though your ex is on the show, you should try and at least focus more on the game. I don't think I necessarily have an issue with that.
Focused on the game.
Because she was in bed talking with Sarah about this, and that's what brought on his complaint, right? It's however many days into the game, and she's still harping on about it.
I mean, should she just be talking about game 100% of the time then? Like, talking about your personal life happens all the time on the show.
No, I think it was probably just to the point where he thought it was impacting what she was
Well,
doing.
whatever. And then
Fix your camera a little bit. Look at your camera. We're seeing the bottom of your chin.
Well, I have very limited resources to work with here, Devin. So we're going to have to...
We know this.
Figure it out. There we go. Much better.
Yeah.
Well, then the biggest infraction of the episode is he basically just gets the two of them thrown in. Like, he's asking constantly to be put into elimination for God knows why. And then his attitude of, like, how when she's like, why are you doing this? And he's like, oh, don't worry about it. I know what I'm doing. Like, but what the hell, man? Like, it's her game, too. Like, that was egregious to me.
I don't know. I don't think he was necessarily asking to go in. I think the way that he approached it wasn't necessarily beneficial.
She asked him directly,
What?
do you want to go into elimination? He basically said yes.
In a patronizing way. That's what it was. He was just kind of patronizing her the whole time, and that's why when he walked away, she was like, okay, you tell me how to play this game, and walked away. That's what it was. He was just done with her at that point. At no point in time did he tell anyone that he wanted to go in.
I certainly don't think he made it hard for people to put him in.
I agree with that, right? I think he didn't take a good approach, because they showed a montage of him going to people saying, if it's my time, it's my time. I'm getting mentally ready. Like, and I mean, you can do that to an extent, and you do that with certain people, but I don't think you want to go and shotgun that out to the house.
It just bothered me how he did that, and then he got, like, mad at her, basically, for, like, I don't want to go into elimination. You realize that I'm with you on this, and, like, his lack of awareness and empathy there did bother me. Or at least his apparent lack of awareness and empathy. That's what we saw on screen. And then you also have, of course, getting to elimination.
And then
the whole other fiasco. For what?
I think this is the other part of it. Is it possible that he just wanted to go home?
Yes, very much so.
Okay.
I think it is.
Because I don't think we can overlook that.
He saw like, realistically, it's going to be difficult for him to win this season even if he does keep going. And if that's the case, like, I've got money, I might as well go home. And then and then obviously he has a partner at this point who is going to be, infringe upon on that. And then, of course, getting to elimination, which one other quick thing before we really dive in here. For her, when Cachet is like, oh, I think I should be in the water because I'm smaller, I will displace the water less. Plus, also, you're taller. You can reach up higher to make the towers and stuff. And then he'll be like, no, I'm going to go in the water. And then he forgets to stand on the stupid thing. And it was clear. And, like, I think it would have been better to have the taller person outside. They can reach up higher. They could have built the tower much easier. So how difficult it was for her to actually reach up.
I don't know, but a big part of this is your ability to be able to get the puzzle pieces out of the water, right? And so if you're not a good swimmer and if you're not strong enough to be able to lift and like push the puzzle pieces outside of the water, you can't even get the puzzle pieces there to stack them to begin with.
We saw both players, and maybe this was just by coincidence, but both players were able to get them out swimming within a decent amount of time. I didn't see that being a huge problem for them.
Yeah, it's because they were both like taller men. Right?
Well, James isn't that tall.
I think she would have been fine at getting them out of the water. She probably would have remembered to stand.
How tall do you think he is? 5'10"? But Cachet is like pretty small.
James?
She's a small woman.
I know. And think about how hard it is for her to reach up and actually build a tower.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be even harder.
Somehow did it though.
I think it's going to be even harder for her to be able to get the puzzle pieces out of the water, especially if she's not a great swimmer.
Once you open it up, the place is just going to go out of the water. You don't have to push it up that much.
Once the what?
Like, when you unhook the piece, you don't have to give it that much force to push it out of the water.
You still have to be able to reach up to get... So, one, you have to be able to reach up to get him out, and two, we don't know how good of a swimmer she is. She could suck as a swimmer. I mean, she doesn't seem like the most athletic person in the world.
No, I know, but neither does Dom at this point.
I don't know. I thought he did pretty good at that. Didn't you?
He did pretty good. I would say that like he did a good job of getting the pieces out, but I am 100% in the court of he wanted to go home, and that's why he wasn't plugging the hole. And when TJ called him out on it, he's like, dude, I just had a brain fart. It's like, no, you didn't. Like, you were wanting to lose this, and you were flabbergasted that the other team was that bad
feel like he
at
had
this.
one of the worst episodes of an Elimination Winner in some time, to be honest. And this was somebody who quite enjoyed him.
Oh, I don't know. I don't...
It wasn't as incompetent as Josh winning
I think I'm on...
which is hilarious.
I don't think he did great, but I don't think he was that bad. Because a lot of this one, like... So really, at the core of... What's at the core of the issue? One, he didn't plug the hole, and two, that he told people that he was getting mentally ready to go into elimination. Those are the issues that we have.
He made it very easy for himself to get put in. What's my dog doing right now?
No, and by making it easy, what we're talking about is he just told people that he was getting ready mentally to go in. That's what it was,
thought his
right?
treatment of his partner throughout the episode, I thought that was not the best. I thought he did not do a good job of keeping the cohesion there, from what we saw on TV.
I mean, I think that...
Well, it's kind of like how Nehemiah got screwed by Evan.
I think that goes both ways, though, right? I don't think you can just blame that on him. They both seem to not get along with each other.
But we saw him initiating things that
from his
problem for me in the partnership. The fact that he is not will trying to get out of elimination at all. He's perfectly willing to be thrown in. The fact that he's completely unreceptive to her. Like, it's one thing for me if like maybe they did have a longer discussion about who should be in the water. But she made a lot of very good points with why she should be in the water. He's just like, no, I'm going to go in. Like, maybe there was more there that we didn't see. But for me, that's dismissive. I thought was not a good way to set up a partnership.
You have to understand that at that point, they were just done with each other. They didn't want to communicate.
That.
Like, it was pretty much done. Like, he was tired of, like, her talking about her relationship with Cinco.
Live Island and her, like, oh, she's just going to be here to hook up. She's not actually here to play the game. When I think she's shown she's at least been active so far compared to a lot of other people in the house.
Yeah, I mean, there's some people that we've gotten absolutely nothing from.
Zero camera from, like,
right?
Zero.
I mean, Xavier I would be interested to know how much Xavier has actually been present in the game to this point, because he got one confessional this episode?
He got one.
David Alexander, I think, got 0 confessionals.
Yeah.
A lot of people went up with a donut this episode. Kira, I think, got 0 confessionals for as present as she was in the first couple episodes.
Shannon barely got 2.
Yeah, but there was a lot of people who ran empty. I mean, this was the first time Tasha's basically been on screen with this episode, which is interesting to me because she was one of the bigger names coming in.
Well, it was because of her partner. Like, that situation with her partner is why she got as much screen time as she did. So, like, it was circumstantial. But yeah, it just boggles my mind that he won elimination with his partner, who it was clear they kind of despised each other by the end of that. And he wasn't plugging the hole, and yet they still won. And first of all, I thought this was a very good elimination game. Like, I think this is a really good... If you're not going to do, like, they've done a couple classic things, and this was new. We've never seen we've seen similar things, but nothing specifically like this. I thought it was a very well done elimination. And so, you know what? To get back to our original point of, like, the me thinking it's the best of the 3, I thought the elimination was put well together. I thought the daily mission was really good. Yep. Really good. And it was just the right amount of time. you could tell where most teams were, and people were complaining you couldn't tell where everyone was. I'm like, well, they only have so much airtime, and why do you want to spotlight people who are just in the middle? You want to spotlight those who are doing very poorly to make fun of them and show how poorly they're doing, because they're probably going into elimination. And then you want to spotlight the 2 or 3 teams that are at the top, because then you're heightening the race for the win. So, like, I just don't buy that argument that you need to know where everyone is. Like, I just don't think that's realistic in a game like that.
I don't know. I think you may be able to do it in a way that kind of communicates people's ability in whatever mission they're working on. I agree with you. I thought the mission this episode was great. I thought the elimination this episode was great. I think for the mission specifically, we did learn a lot, right? We learned a lot about the competitors. Tasha and James seemed like complete duds in this. They were in last to the point where when they finally were able to get all their stairs in place and they had to guess letters, Tasha fell off almost immediately. I don't think James really did her any favors with the way that he kind of just dropped it abruptly, especially when you compare it to some of the other people and the way that they handled that situation. Mm-hmm. Were there any people that surprised us with how they performed in this mission in a positive way?
Ben.
Is there anyone that stood out? I would agree.
Yeah.
Besides the people that have already stood out?
Correct.
He would be the one.
Honestly, I didn't pay that close of attention, so I don't think so. I think politically, though, I had some surprises from this episode. So from the mission standpoint, I don't think I paid close enough attention to that to really answer that question. Politically, though, Leo and Kayla from Amazing Race, coming from a show where politics is like one of the most least important things other than just don't piss anybody off. Like, that's really like the key to Amazing Race is don't be the absolute best team where you're winning everything, because then people try to do roadblocks on you to keep you from doing well. The other thing to do is just not to piss people off to where if you're getting lost on directions and you run into another team, they'll point you to go over there. Like, that's the two politics of Amazing Race. To watch Leo and Kayla having that conversation and realizing, like, James is screwing us with what he's trying to do politically right now. We can't trust him. It wasn't, but for them to be like Leo has never shown a cognizance of any type of politics on the Amazing Race, and he ran it 3 times. So that surprised me, just knowing his past.
What do we think about James's decision to essentially turn his back on the Amazing Race Alliance? To decide that he is okay with going in against Leo. He would rather do that than go in against Dom and Cache.
It was smart and dumb, okay? And then I'll let Rob chime in here too. It was smart in that in order for him to survive in the game, you just have to get to the next week with where he is in the game at the moment. So the smartest move for him is to throw Leo under the bus because he has a shot of beating Leo. A lot of those other guys that were up, he wasn't going to win. It was also dumb because if Leo does get thrown in and he wins, his other main ally is Kayla, and she's done with him at that point. And he's just going to have to rely on Tyson and his own wits. He's going right back in if he does that.
For one, I mean, I don't... Like, Dom and Cache had a lot of weaknesses to the team. So I don't know that I get that Dom's a lot bigger than James, but beyond that, I think there's definitely plenty of elimination matchups where I think James and Tasha would have gone on top. Also, though, why do you have to tell Leo? You can
that was
stupid.
Say,
I don't think
you can politic a little bit, and then maybe on the back channel is back to him. But for one, you can deny that. 2, there's a very good chance they don't get put in, and you beat Cache and Dom, and then you can come back and just pretend like nothing happened. Like, I just don't see why he had to be that upfront about it.
I guess we don't know if it had already gotten back to him at that point, right? Because I don't remember off the top of my head who initiated that conversation. I almost want to say that Leo was the one who kind of brought up the subject when they were kind of at the bunk beds, but I don't remember off the top of my head. We saw James give his reasoning behind why he did it, and I think it was a little bit more beyond, oh, I want to make it to the next week, I want to go against the easier competitor. He's directly said, and I think this is why I probably think it was a good move. If he's aligned with the Amazing Race people, that doesn't really do him a whole hell of a lot of good, right? Yeah. If he can somehow hitch his ride to the Survivor Alliance and jump on theirs in number, that gets him a lot further in the game. And so from my perspective, I think that's why I don't think it was necessarily a terrible move, because if he loses Leo, who cares? Leo has no equity in the game right now.
Well, the only way really to get equity seemingly is going to be doing missions. There's no like house vote for anything, so you just need people who are going to win. Although I don't know, he could do that and try to latch on to Survivor. I don't know how valued he'd be as a number by that group. I don't see why they really need him. I don't think
he's valuable at all to them. I think
because he's never going to win a mission. He's never going to win a mission.
James is impossible.
Or it's unlikely. No. That's why I stepped back.
Unlikely.
Trace, you would have thought it would have been unlikely if he won a mission going forward. I mean, you were pretty high on his prospects coming in.
I was high on him, but here's the thing that I discovered watching this show is the people he's playing with. I mean, I knew Tyson was going to be good. I didn't know Tyson was going to be as dominant as he was. I also didn't expect Angela from Big Brother to step in as the political and performance figure that she was either, because I didn't know a lot of these people. But when I was looking at James, I'm like, he's the sleeper. But it became clear as these episodes have borne out that, yeah, he was kind of a sleeper, but the way this game is structured is not in his benefit. If he had like a dedicated partner, that's a different story. His road to the final was going to be hard, even as a sleeper. But I think he went out earlier than I expected him to, based on what I'd seen the first couple weeks. It seems politically he was there.
Skill set that would have been advantageous in a lot of missions, but it didn't come his way.
Yeah, but I think compared to some of the other people,
he finished last in the last two missions.
Look, he has. He's certainly shown to have a lot of problems. But the bank account thing, I don't know how much reason that actually was, but I just wouldn't be stressing about that at this time. Like we've seen like bank accounts now, and bank accounts are what they're going to end up with. Like, and
so much time left in the game. This
is a weird way to look at things. But so he is trying to go against Justine because he sees her bank account. But and then going forward,
I don't think that really factored into his decision very much. Like, I think he threw that out there. I think he threw that out there in the conversation with Dom is just another reason why he would want to do that. But the real reason why he would want to go against Justine and Leo was to hitch his wheels to the Survivor Alliance. That's what it was. I think he just threw that out just in conversation.
Why do you think that
with Dom?
Well, why do you think that wouldn't be a reason for? We've seen it motivate people in the past all the time.
But this is some trivial amount of money. He already has money.
James,
it's just we've seen that's how people operate in the past, where they see the bank account and their eyes just like they get little dollar signs on, like Tom and Jerry. Like they just
win.
And that's a mistake on their part. And here's the biggest thing, because
that does happen.
When did that happen in the ruin?
I know, and it was dumb.
Darrell, he was going to have to go in anyway.
Was like, I'll go in against this person.
I think that's just one of those
things. He said, I'd like to go in, and he wanted to go in. They take the money.
Because he knew he was going to have to go in it at some point. He knew he was going to have to go in one of those final eliminations.
And he negotiated with the Alliance to say, this is the time I'll go in.
Because at that point, he knew that he was...
do this.
After he won that elimination, that last one, he knew he was good until the final. And that's why it was such a big deal when he got in the fight with Brad and had to go home. Because he had made his money. It was in the bag. All right.
Yep. So, so to tie that in, though, if you had studied the challenge before you came into this, and you're in James' position, and you're going to talk about the dollar signs, that is a terrible decision to make, because we have seen in the past, if they're only going to, let's say Tyson and Angela and Sarah steamroll this sumbitch, okay? A combination of them wins every single mission. And the only way these other people are making money is through eliminations. They're not going to run a final with only 3 or 4 people in it. They're going to open that final up. So they're going to increase the purse or say, hey, this week we've got to change. The top 2 teams are each getting... they will find a way to get more people in.
If he keeps getting money, he's going to be the target next week.
That was, Trace, what you just said was my argument about Total Madness. That they weren't just going to not have people in the final. You know, they were going to have to change things up and figure it out.
9. They could have launched 1 or 2 and been fine. But they didn't.
Yeah, you know?
Yeah, well, the difference, though, with Total Madness, though, is that the only way to get a skull was elimination. Here, we're talking about a monetary value, and the values that they have currently set, mathematically, that the way it's set up is they're expecting with all these partner switches that even if Tyson gets the weakest person, he might not necessarily win that challenge. What we're seeing, though, is the stronger players are taking the anchors on their back and still winning.
I think that's why you don't worry about it, right? There's so much partner switching that happens that if you get aligned with a strong partner, you probably will at some point. That could be your week to get the money.
I would not be stressing about it at all at this point.
Yes.
It would not even cause as a concern. My point, though, is that if he keeps getting money... And
that's why his reasoning for the bank account is stupid.
As a middle-of-the-road competitor, then he's going to be a target for elimination.
For sure.
So
a lot of it...
That's why it's a terrible decision on his part.
The bank account at all, it's just not... I would almost be a negative, honestly, for me at this point.
Yeah. If who's seen as who were you talking about?
Because like you can,
competitor? I think people saw him as like a bottom competitor.
Okay, well, bad to middle of the road competitor.
I think so too.
Not somebody
because who do you see as a worse competitor than him?
Leo.
Trace would know more about that than we would, but I don't know if I would.
Leo versus James.
Sorry, say that again. I got a work text. Say that again.
In eliminations?
Leo.
He just said Leo.
Before the season,
I think if it's
a
the puzzle, James would have it.
No, he didn't.
Yeah, you did. What are you talking about?
Leo,
yes,
I kind of intimated that, Devin. That's a fair point that Rob just made. I'll just
James was your pick to win.
I would say this based on what
James just doesn't seem very athletic to me at all.
He is, though. Like, that's the thing. Like, he is athletic. The problem is he lends himself more into, like, long-distance running and hiking and things you would do in a final. Like, he's not going to be able to do wind sprints against Danny. You know, like, that's just not going to happen. So, but Leo, what we have seen out of Leo so far he's performed better in all these missions than James has. Like, without question so far. So, based on what we're seeing on the challenge, Leo is probably and definitely a better physical competitor than James for these missions. Now, you get to a final, and you ask me to pick between Leo and James, I would probably lean more James. But for these daily missions and eliminations, I'd lean more towards Leo right now.
Switching. How much predictive value this is going to have going forward? Like, I mean, if you have that much a track record of his performance, and it sort of that has a lot of similarities, like I would much prefer to go on that than the couple episodes we've seen so far.
I would agree. We didn't really. It seemed like Sarah and Cinco would have been a good partner for this episode, and I think the puzzle aspect may have hindered their ability to perform well. We didn't see how they did it all in this.
They didn't show them that much. They showed them a lot beforehand, and they showed a lot of Sarah being like, "Oh, I've got." Yeah.
They showed them in the front half of the mission. They did really well moving the letters back and forth. Did not do as well on the sandbag guessing the hangman stuff portion as good.
Do well, and that was kind of what we got.
Yeah, I mean they're really sprinkling her in. I mean,
so
from an edit perspective,
let's talk about that line for a second. When Shan said that line about this is what on Survivor we call a winner's edit, I almost shat myself laughing because I'm like, you're not fucking winning this. This isn't a winner's edit. Are you out of your mind? There's no way. They're going out of their way to make her look stupid.
We should do something
every week.
Like a winner's edit. You haven't watched the show, homie. What do you mean?
We should do this once a week. We should have a segment where we cross someone off that we do, a man and a woman that we do not think will win.
Off.
Beyond the people that got eliminated that episode.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Dom is off.
Shan off. Dominic off.
Dom is off.
Dom is definitely off.
Cross them both off. Dominic and Shan are both off. Because they have gone out of their way to make Shan look as stupid as possible every week. Between the whole newscast thing last week.
I agree. I don't think it was.
I definitely don't. They like to do stuff.
They were making her look really stupid. Yeah. It put it in context. She's talking about gossip and political strategy in the house, and she gets up there and then starts saying how she's not doing strategy and people just tell her things and she's a nice, like they were doing everything they could to make her look like a hypocrite. And then this past week, the winner's edit thing and then the Shantham piece where she was humming her little tune, like They are going out of
How
their
many-
way to make
how
her
many
look
people
stupid.
here do we think have legitimate chances to win? I think Trace and I did this while
Wow, what's up?
you were not on.
Yeah, when Rob
last week.
dropped.
Let's do this quickly for the females. Alyssa has a chance, right?
Sure.
Angela, yes.
Well, 1 second. When we say have a chance,
Ozza-
when we say have a chance to win, what does that mean?
Like, it seems
Like a chance to win the final.
realistic chance.
Make it to the
right?
final.
Because obviously, if you make it to the with any final, because obviously there's a chance
Any
that
final.
anyone could win the final if we're just flipping coins
So if it's
like we typically do.
like we typically do.
You know, that's what I mean. So like I'm saying, like they have a realistic chance to make it to the final and do that. That's why I'm saying just like a reasonable chance to win, right? Because I think if James was still in the game, I don't think he would have a reasonable chance to win, just because of his physical limitations to this point and his position in the house. Like he was just drawing blanks, kind of.
I think
he just wasn't in a good spot.
I think
he was drawing blanks at this point.
Here.
No, they're not. I think Kayla has an. I think Leo's not
let's
dead.
fly through this.
We'll get
so
to
Alyssa,
him. We'll
yes.
get to him.
Angela, yes. Aza, yes. Cache, no.
I have a hard time thinking.
Kayla,
No. Yes, I
she's
believe
kind
she
of
has
on
a
the
chance.
fringe for me.
You know what's helping her right now, and I want you to put this in the game context. She's already been paired with people that could potentially get her thrown in. She still has a lot of people that are not going to be anxious to throw Danny in because he's in a big alliance. And she's made no political waves. Like, she knows where she's at in the game. She has an opportunity, if she can continue to stay under the radar, and if she keeps getting the mediocre partners now, as we get towards the end of the season, she could be Tyson's partner. She could be Xavier's. Like, there's tons of people that will keep her safe later because she's getting the stinky ones done now.
Justine, no. You think Justine has a chance?
I don't think
No.
her and Kayla should be in different categories.
I think that's fair. Kira, no.
No.
Sarah,
Okay.
yes. Shannon, no.
Yes.
Shan,
No.
No.
Right?
I think that's fair right now.
No.
Xavier,
That's like 5 or 6 people. That's
let's
pretty
see if that
solid.
carries over
I
the
mean,
men.
that-
Xavier, honestly, based off of the way that they've just been putting this together, like, I mean, he's barely on the show.
They've done that with winners in the past. They've hated them from the beginning.
Yeah.
Really?
Like
It's
Jordan on
possible.
Dirty
I would
30
say
was, like,
it's
no,
possible.
couple episodes and explodes during the second half of the season. Or they'll set it up a lot where these males.
I want to know who's editing this show.
Jordan was doing
outside of
nothing
his
on
outside of
camera
his
in
helping
Dirty
camera,
30
that was the
either.
person
Like,
that
he
got
was
on
so
TV.
under the radar for everything.
I want to know who's editing the show
It's a
for
good
these
it's a good
seasons.
question.
Like, who's editing the show and who's in charge of essentially the
I don't know.
story?
We've seen a lot with these
the
male
narrative.
female seasons how they'll
Yeah.
kind of structure it.
I don't know.
One half the season will focus more on the female winner, and the second half will focus more on the male winner. Like with free agents, for example, like Johnny kind of had the first half and Laurel kind of has the second half. They'll do that sometimes.
Okay. Xavier, realistically,
Yeah,
I think
I
yes.
definitely
Yeah.
yes.
It's possible.
Tyson, yes.
Yeah,
Cinco,
possible.
no.
Yes.
Yeah, I guess no.
No.
Leo,
No.
he's kind of on the no. Yeah.
No.
Kylan,
Yeah, I think yes.
No.
yes, definitely yes.
I don't see
I
why you
don't.
would say
I don't have enough information to make a guess. So
Enzo,
I'll lean on your judgment.
probably no. I mean, he just hasn't been on the show. Is he? We didn't. How many confessionals has he had?
Not many. We know that he tried to make that there was some
Not
chick who tried to make
much.
out with him the first night. Who was it? Kira? I don't know. I don't.
But we found. Didn't we find that out
In Discord, yeah.
Yeah, sure.
after
No,
the
we
show?
did.
Yeah, we didn't.
Or somebody posted.
We found it out in
Yeah.
Discord from exit
You
interviews.
think that would be
yes.
something they would want to put on the
Twitter?
show?
It was on Twitter.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. They don't want to have. This
This
not
is
supposed to have
CBS,
a lot
not
of,
MTV.
explicit content, Evan.
Dom, no. Derek, no.
You think no
David,
for Derek?
no. Danny, yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Danny, yes.
Danny, yes.
Ben, yes. So for the men,
Benny's yes. Why is
Yes.
Ben yes to win?
About 5 or 6. Yeah.
I don't think Ben.
Ben's a
You don't
yes
think
so
Ben's a
far.
yes?
I don't think Ben and Derek should be in different categories at all.
I think Ben's a
all
yes.
right, fine. Derek's a yes. I don't really care. Like, I mean, he was one of the ones that was right on the edge for me.
Okay.
So 1, 2, 3, 4. We have 6 men too. So I mean, generally we're in the same range. There's still
Yep. So it's
quite a number of people that have a chance to win, which at this point makes Rob, you can get on your soapbox here and talk about this because the moment I heard them bring this up, could just feel you like going up a wall about it. Tell people why the logic of them wanting to get of weak players now does not matter. For all the new people that are listening, because I feel like you haven't done this before.
In terms of like the Anissa strategy, basically, of we don't want Anissa around because he's going to
give people the origin story about how this originally came up and how this also applies to this situation.
Well, so I think this is a tad different just based on who's making the decisions this time, and I could actually see a little bit more of the theory for the case this time than previously. But what would always happen is you would see. Often the men's side of the house, this has happened with the female side, they usually only air it with the men for whatever reason, that they would all get together and say, hey, we want to get rid of the weak female in the house because she could drag us down in the final who gets paired with her. Just from a pure mathematical perspective, if the men are all, there's a 100% chance one of the men is going to win. There's a 0% chance two of the men are going to win an individual season. So if we look at it from that perspective, there's no move that's going to increase all of their probabilities of winning because they all have to add up to 100. So there's no circle in which you guys should all be agreeing on something to do because it's not going to increase all of your probabilities to win. And there's just for whatever chance there is that Anissa is going to get paired with one of them, there's just as much chance he's going to get paired with a different one. And actually, the only chance I can see with this working is if you are on the better side of the house, then getting rid of the weak female does make sense sometimes because you want to reduce a random outcome. You want, if you're the best person there, you want it to be an even playing field because then the best person is going to win. But if you're in the bottom half of the house, you actually want to keep an outlier there and the chance the outlier gets paired with a good person, and then that randomness takes into your advantage, and then you can actually win. So in this situation, I actually do somewhat understand not wanting those outliers to be there on the bottom end because then that could bring Tyson back to the pack. I still wouldn't worry about it that much at this point, but I do understand a bit more of the logic.
Yeah, but there's still an equal probability that person gets paired with someone else.
No, I know,
there's
but
still always going to be someone that's the weakest.
But if you're the best person there, not having outliers is good because if Tyson's the best of the guys, and all of the women are 50-50, they're all the same, then he's going to win.
Yeah, if they're all the same, yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
that's different. Yeah, but it's rare that they're all the same.
And see, this is where this strategy, though, starts to really hurt on both sides of this equation. And I hadn't thought about this prior to us talking about it today. If you're on the female side of the house and you are the strongest female competitor, Angela said a line that just drove me up the wall. She's like, I want to run the final against the best of the best. And I went, no, I fucking don't.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't know that she does either, but she said it. So let's just go with it for now. If I am a man on this side of the house, you know what I want to do? I want to keep the strongest females around, and I want to get rid of the strongest males because that is my best path to victory. And on the female side of the house, it's the same thing. I want to get rid of all the strong females and keep the strong males because that would then increase my ability to win. And it's a strategy that's hard to actually pull off effectively because those come into conflict. Like if you're, so
does everybody else.
Because then you get to run potentially a final with a strong female. Yeah, but you don't want to risk getting stuck with Anissa. That's the problem.
If you're not running the final, I'm better than you. I get Anissa. Now you have a shot to win.
I know that, but I'm also playing Russian roulette with those odds. Let's say that it's only 3 teams of 2. I now have a 33% chance to get a big loss before we even start the fucking final.
Let's just say that's the case. Then you need that random outcome to have a chance to win, because if we're all even, then I'm going to win.
You're right. I don't disagree with you. That's why this strategy is really hard to pull off on both sides of this equation because they come into conflict.
Because this is a logic that actually happens a lot on Survivor, that keeping the bigger threats around as a big threat acts as like a meat shield for you, where those people then will take bullets when you won't. I understand that part.
It's a shield.
I typically just think my general thing would be I'm here to cut throats and give me the best possible chance to win at the end. If that leads to another shot or two getting taken at me, I'll just try to withstand that. That's typically the theory I would run in the case. I also would not care at all.
Yeah, and see,
I wouldn't care at all.
That is where you and I agree.
On the side of the house, generally, that's just not something I'd worry about. I would care about who my allies are on the female side of the house. I wouldn't care about
that's
who's
me.
strong or who's weak. Generally, I just think that's overplaying at that point.
I just want the opportunity, if I'm going to play this game, I'm with you, Rob, because it's just like, what is the best path for me to the final? Because as we've seen in these finals as of late, all you have to do is finish the majority of the legs and then save your energy for the last leg where it really matters. So at that point, it really comes across to me like the best strategy, the way the show is structured nowadays, is to just do whatever is going to get you to the final. It doesn't matter what strategy you pull. It doesn't matter how you want to go about it, being cutthroat or any of that stuff. You just need to find the best path to that final, because anything pretty much goes at that point. So these people that are worried about the strongest versus the weakest, it's a wash, especially in this season, because the reality is you just need to set foot at the starting line. And however you get there, I could give a shit.
Do we know how many episodes are going to be in this season?
We're assuming up
on the
12,
wiki, it makes it seem like there's 11.
11.
Because they have 10 episodes and a final. So let's just go with that, right? It doesn't really matter.
Okay.
Let's say there's 11 episodes.
We'll go with it.
One of which is a final. So that means there are 7 more missions. In the 7 in the 7 missions
14 more
that we
people
have
are
left,
going home.
How many of those will be won by a pair that does not include Tyson and Angela? Or Angela, excuse me.
I think
depends on how trivia goes next week.
I don't think they've shown enough to be considered that far ahead of the competition so far.
I mean, they've won every one.
I think if you throw Angela, Tyson, and Sarah, I think if you include Sarah in that equation, I think there's maybe 2 to 3 challenges out of the remaining 7 that someone besides those 3 would win.
And fate tilt her off as it goes on. And like, I also just don't think it's a good idea for them to keep winning this much. Like, I think they need to get a little bit of the heat off of them. It's showing that they're this strong. Like, some people are going to want to take shots at that.
Yeah, it would have been interesting to see if. Well, I don't know. The aspect of it is that Tyson he's performed this well, and he has a really strong alliance behind him.
Yeah.
Right? And we saw them kind of foreshadowed them, something being there with Shan, right? Shan says, overhearing the conversation between Tyson and Angela, Tyson thinks he's so, like, being so, like, shady or being so secretive. She has to be the one that turns, right? She has to be the one who kind of tries to make something happen
here. They've done it in the past where they've hinted at that, and then it doesn't end up coming to fruition. So I don't know that it's a guarantee that she's the one who ends up pulling a trigger. I think they just maybe we wanted to keep that mystery out there. I do think that'll kind of have to happen at some point, though.
Yeah, with the way the numbers are, it's going to have to happen.
For the Survivor people?
I think... Yeah, I think it's going to have to happen because, like, let's say they weed out all these Love Island people over the next couple weeks. Well, the law of averages says that, well, we also haven't had a lot of double Survivor pairs yet either. It's mostly been pretty even, Steven, one show and another show. There's not been too many same show pairs yet because, trust me, that algorithm is just Johnny Mosley behind a curtain matching names from other shows. There's going to come a point where some of these double Survivor pairs are going to happen. And it's going to be interesting to see how those numbers have to tilt depending on what the rest of the situation is.
If the Love Islanders and the Amazing Racers keep finding the easy way out the door, like eventually it's just going to come out where they're going to have they're going to be so spread out they're going to have to turn each other to some degree.
Well, then there's the Big Brother.
Well, but you're not always
alliance,
going to have Big Brother pairs.
I know.
So eventually they're going to.
But like generally. If at this point in the game, which alliance do you think will make it the furthest?
I think Survivor. I think they have the most people, and they've shown the most loyalty to each
Survivor.
other at this point. Well, between Big Brother and Survivor.
They also seem to be performing more
Big Brother
valuably
actually
in
has
challenges
the most
as well.
people
Like, that's
to this
the thing.
point.
Like,
I think
they're performing
when
well.
They lost
With Tasha going home.
Yeah, with what's her name going home this past week, that put Big Brother up on the numbers. Yeah,
with Tasha going.
I just don't think they're going to win as many missions. It's
Who,
gonna
Big
be
Brother?
hard.
Well, if Angela keeps winning, but
Yeah,
if Angela keeps winning,
Beyond
exactly, yeah.
it
beyond
looks to me like
Tyson,
Tyson and Angela are thick as thieves.
Yeah, because if Angela keeps winning, she's essentially part of the Survivor Alliance with Tyson. Sorry, say that again, Rob.
If remove Tyson from the equation, who do you think the next best man in the house?
That we've seen so far,
Highland.
I would probably have to go. Even though we haven't really seen much of it on
I'd say
TV, I'd
Tyson
say Danny.
I think Xavier and Highland are as good as anybody else on the show. I know he hasn't shown it as much on
Xavier's
the show.
good. I think both of them could be good. I just
about as good as anybody else there.
I mean, I can't even think of who he was paired with this week.
He was
with Kayla.
He was with Kayla this week. He was with Ozza last week. So, yeah, we'll see once. We'll see if any of the guys end up kind of standing out here going forward beyond Tyson. I just know that the three of Danny, Colin, and Xavier have a significant athletic pedigree, and have just shown to be able to perform in the past. So that's who I'd go with.
Yeah.
All right. What else do we want to talk about before we leave?
I think I'm pretty good, man. I feel like we hit everything that was important, at least from what I saw. So, I mean, to close the loop before we do power rankings, like I've thoroughly enjoyed this way more than Spies, Lies, and Allies by like a country mile. And then I even though I didn't hate Double Agents, it just kind of came across as a C+ season all the way through. I think I'm liking this more than Double Agents as well, because like the people that they have gotten to show up for this show are actually playing the game, and they are being political, and they are being strategic, where it just feels like on the main show, a lot of the smackers they get,
well, I think one of the key
they're just cannon fodder.
Difference than just what's been highlighted on
like
the show. Like we haven't seen like any of the emotional drama we've seen has been pretty tied into gameplay. Like I would say the most prevalent we've had with that has been the Tiffany Cinco cachet stuff, and that I mean Tiffany ended up getting voted in that week. Like that was had a clear strategic element to it as well. Like you remember like last season when like Amanda would have her rants that would take up like 15 minutes of the episode. Like we just haven't seen that come into play as much.
Yeah, but we also they have 30 less minutes of airtime that they have to worry about filling.
That's true.
Which is also helpful. This is the sweet spot for the challenge. I hope MTV wakes up and realizes that a 1 hour block is the ideal format for this show.
Trace, kick us off. Power rankings.
All right, power rankings. Female side, Sarah 1, Angela 2, Kayla 3. Why not?
For the men.
And for the men, I think based on your edits, you still have to have Tyson 1 until some other information becomes available. 2, I'm going to go Danny. 3, Xavier. Why not?
Rob.
That's just a guess, by the way, not
woman,
an actual, like, I
Angela
think he's good.
1,
I just don't know who else to say in the third
3.
spot.
Men's side, I have a hard time seeing Tyson win the whole thing.
Why?
It just, I mean, maybe I shouldn't, because a lot of it is outside the game stuff that he could just be doing as a troll job. So,
yeah, because like even though I know what you're talking about. He's been bashing production essentially about their ability to, and I think even though he's doing that, I don't think that necessarily means he doesn't win. He could still, like, I wouldn't put it past Tyson to do that at all.
yeah, that's fair.
He could have hated the experience, but still
Tyson.
won.
I know it is. Yeah, I know. I'll still keep him out of the number 1 spot. I'll go Kylan 1, Tyson 2, Xavier 3.
Okay. Let me look over the men and women real quick. I think mine might be almost exactly the same as Rob's. I'm going to go Angela, Sarah, Desi, and then for the men, I'm going to go Tyson, Highland, Xavier. All right. For some housekeeping, I think for the Patreon episode this week, we're probably going to do part 2 of the email bag that we did last week, just because there were so many that we didn't get to. And it didn't help that we spent 20 minutes on the first question that we had. But we'll do that for the Patreon episode this week. If you would like to listen to that episode, you can become a patron at patreon.com/The Challenge Chronicles. Sign up for $4 and you get a bonus episode per week. Thank you for listening. We'll talk to you again soon. Bye.